Greetings this evening of your time as you create time to exist. How are you? Oh, thank you. Allow me to entitle this interaction, You Contain It All. Allow me to begin in the following way. We often discuss with you that your personality is comprised, so to speak, and allegorically speaking, of a three-sided prism composed of belief, emotion, and thought. These are, perhaps you can say, gradations or gradient expressions of your consciousness, broken down, separated out to a particular degree that then allows you to express that prism in what you consider to be this physical reality. But understand that perhaps there are, again, allegorically, two other more encompassing aspects of consciousness, prior, if you will, to the belief, emotion, and thought. Fundamentally and foundationally, consciousness, the prime source, if you will, begins simply under the category or simply under the orientation of existence itself. And existence simply has the quality perhaps you would refer to as isness, beingness. It simply is, period. And that is its expression, its totality. It is existential in that way. It simply exists. And this is what you would consider to be all that is, one of the orientations or one of the prime representations of all that is, which again is simply existence. It is one thing. It is one expression. Thereby, there are certain, shall I say, explorations within it that necessitate certain extensions or certain enhancements in the overall concept of existence in order to explore from a slightly different point of view. So therefore, the first separation from existence, from isness, is knowingness, which is, perhaps you can say, one time removed from isness or beingness or existence. So altogether, you have existence, knowingness, belief, emotion, and thought. Ultimately, then, in your reality, you have action, which midwives these concepts into your reality. But allow us to back up a bit. For the idea is that in its pristine state, in its oneness state, much as you exist now, even as physical beings, there is not, from that perspective, and again, this is somewhat arbitrary and again metaphorical, but you will understand the point. There is not inherent within the one idea the ability to self-reflect from seemingly an external source. For there is only one expression, one idea, one statement. And therefore, much as you, as physical beings, would never be able to, quote unquote, see yourself without the help of someone else to do so, or with the help of what you colloquially refer to as a reflective surface, a mirror, so also does that oneness then enhance itself with a particular separation. That separation, again, allows the oneness to exist from more than one point of view. Now, at the same time that there is in the separation a seeming polarity created, a seeming now two where there once was one, fundamentally and foundationally, the two are still one. And this is why this is metaphorical or allegorical and will only from one particular perspective describe an aspect of reality. It is again quite colloquial. It is again quite rendered down to physical understanding, but again, can some sense be made of this in this way? So once again, from the one complete wholeness, you have a separation. You have now an expansion, in a sense, of viewpoint, whereby one point of view can now view the other, and the other point of view can then, in a sense, view the first. It creates a dynamic. It creates, in that sense, an expression that allows the playing out along a continuum. So therefore, all that is, again, from one point of view, separates itself, colloquially speaking, to be able to behold itself from, perhaps you can say, a variety of points of view. For the separation actually occurs as an explosion of many from the one, thereby allowing the one to be reflected not only from one other single point of view, as the aforementioned example, but from all sides, all angles, front, back, side, top, bottom, all orientations within what you would consider to be physical space. So therefore, first and foremost, separation of the one primary homogeneous energy of creation results in the ability to once again behold that particular expression from different points of view, from different aspects, thereby giving different access, different understanding. And in that sense, this is what you are as physical beings. For you are one of those distinct and discrete points of view, literally eyes of all that is. So one of the expressions of polarity in and of itself is any separation from all that is. When a separation, again, is created, it creates a particular relationship to the all that is, and in many ways can also then be reflected or represented as discrete realities. Your physical reality is seemingly an expression of the separation from the oneness, and in fact then the product of many other separations, sub-separations, if you will. Within your particular physical reality, there are the separation of the primary forces that enable the exploration of separation to exist. Now, by definition, one of those forces will be the separative force itself. For that force that will, in that sense, seem to imply the separation creates the opportunity for the self-reflection and has a discrete and distinct purpose in that way. For it once again allows for the viewing of the self seemingly from external sources, and therefore a well-rounded exploration of the self. Therefore, when we speak of negative and positive polarity, all we truly mean when saying negative polarity is this separative idea, this separative statement. The idea or energy which allows the separation to be maintained and allows the separation to be, in that sense, perceived by you, which once again is one of the points of the separation to begin with. So therefore, as the negative force would be considered perhaps again separative, the positive expression of that force would be considered integrative. And it would then be the exploration, having played out along the separative point of view, all the different explorations that are possible, all the different and differing distinct points of view that are possible to experience, then the positive, in that sense, energy will represent the collecting back, the recollection, if you will, of the self, though again, this is also done on what you call a gradient. So therefore, there is nothing truly bad about negative energy or good about positive energy. They both have a reason for existing. They both are a distinct expression, and you contain them both. You contain it all. Therefore, it really makes no sense to deny the negative expression, for again, that in and of itself is one of the energies that allows the expression of this reality. But again, there are gradations and breakdowns even from this point. And you have seen in no uncertain terms upon your planet that the negative expression, the separative expression, can be taken to an extreme to totally deny any of the connection of all things, to totally deny the oneness of all things. And when individuals are truly enmeshed in exploring that degree of separation, often they will feel in that sense helpless and therefore need to force and impose upon their external reality, for they do not understand that they are connected to all things within, and their only expression, their only ability to express is seemingly externally. So yes, the negative can be taken to an extreme, but the energy in and of itself does not have an inherently bad meaning or label to it. And in that sense, until, if you should decide to, you literally merge back to all that is, you will always be expressing in maintaining any separation, in maintaining any individuality, some aspect of that particular negative energy. Again, not meaning bad, but meaning separative for the purposes of exploration. So therefore, it is truly not a matter of running from the negative. The negative has a purpose. And again, as you expand, because you do contain it all, your awareness of both positive and negative expressions and energies increases, for that is what expansion is. It expands your awareness of everything that is available in any reality. So therefore, you become more aware of both. However, now you are exploring the positive leg of the expression of this energy and beginning to look at the attitudes and actions that will begin to allow you to once again collect back yourself, if you will, begin to sense that you are connected to all things, that you are one with all things, and therefore your orientation, your choice of action may be oriented toward positive ideas, integrative ideas, taking into consideration that everything is all one thing and acting that way with the respect that proves in no uncertain terms that this is what you believe. But this need not mean in any way, shape, or form that you need forsake someone else who may be choosing to still explore negativity. Again, you can validate their experience, for obviously everything that everyone is doing serves them. Everything that everyone is doing allows them to explore their reality. But you can simply allow this expanded awareness to include an awareness of negativity, but not an experience of it. The awareness will come in general, as we have shared, as an awareness of others experiencing negativity. But your ultimate choice to experience either the separative, negative, or the integrative, positive, will always be based not on the viewing of the ideas, not on the idea of considering them or diving into exploring them, but ultimately it is what you act upon. It is what you do that creates the effect. So again, I remind you, if you are simply looking at an idea, if you are simply in that way, pondering it, if you are simply exploring ideas within you, they have no power to create themselves into reality. And it is quite safe to look at any idea as positive or negative as you wish, as long as you do not act with it as a foundation. So therefore, when you see someone else exploring negativity, you can, in that sense, validate their exploration by saying, all right, obviously this is right for you. Here is what is right for me. I do not choose your reality, and I do not condone it through acting the same way, but I do understand that you have just as much as right as I do to explore what you are exploring. So how fascinating, and then perhaps you will be on your way. But you need not do so by invalidating the negative energy. For once again, acknowledgement allows you access to all things, and denial adds more weight, places more attention upon the things that you deny. You cannot deny negative energy, for it is simply weaved into the fabric of your reality, and again, by definition, allows the reality to exist. So it is not a matter of, in that sense, running from it, simply choosing the positive expression and acting according to the positive idea. Now, in the way that you, again, break down and separate out, this goes a bit further in that each individual, in expressing positive and negative energy, and thereby existing as a dynamic, so to speak, between the two, also express another separation that is, for the most part, germane to your physical reality. And it is what you refer to as maleness and femaleness. Now, it is not in any way, shape, or form that one of these is representative by positive and one is representative by negative. No. Both have a positive interpretation and a positive outcome, and a negative interpretation and a negative outcome. So again, it is not that one is negative and one is positive. They are both. And it is not that the gender that you have chosen is the only energy you contain. You contain both energies, though perhaps you express yourself physically in one distinct way, male or female. Now, simply very, very foundationally, the female energy will represent inhalation or receptivity. And in that sense, sometimes can be referred to as intuition, or your willingness to tap into and get a accurate sensing of your reality. So therefore, you can do this in a positive way, receiving through positive, shall I say, filter, or you can do it in a negative way and have negative perceptions. It is not inherently one or the other. But again, you also contain the exhalation, the out-breath, the assertiveness, the ability to put out or to act. And that will be represented by the male energy. Also, is this energy described as having a positive orientation, a positive alignment, or negative orientation or alignment? So it can be both, and it always will be up to you. Your willingness to begin to reconcile within you, your willingness in looking at, once again, recollecting yourself, will allow you once again to not be in denial of any of these gradations or separations and utilize them fully to your advantage. So therefore, when you are functioning, utilizing through the positive, through the integrative, the female energy, the receptive energy, this takes the form of looking for the positive meaning in your reality. Actively searching and seeking and only settling for the positive message delivered. That interpretation, positive interpretation, is in that sense the expression of positive female energy. This also then translates to what you consider to be action, which also then you will always have the choice to act according to separative or negative ideas, helplessness, victimhood, perpetratorhood, or in that sense act according to the positive, which is integrative, acknowledging, is once again gathering and assuming that your reality is part of you, and therefore there is nothing to overcome, nothing to conquer, simply your willingness to be, as all that is simply exists, be and exist within your reality, allowing yourself to utilize these energies as they serve you. And again, perhaps now you are more oriented toward positive action and positive interpretation. Therefore, the outcome, the results, the manifestation in your life will begin to seem more positive. And as again, you do begin to function from the positive perspective, assuming that everything is all connected, is all one thing. As you act that way and get the results of that action, your reality, your external reality, in no uncertain terms, begins to provide in abundance the evidence that all things are connected, the evidence that you are all one event, one thing, the evidence that synchronicity, the positive outcome of the interwoven nature of all incidences, is now the rule rather than the exception. This is simply part of your chosen path in life now to begin to see this. So as you begin to function in this way, not denying the negative, but simply in that sense shifting your orientation toward the positive, and again allowing the enhanced awareness of negativity to simply come through the explorations of others, to simply come through the awareness of their experience. You still get to experience 100% of the positive, and thereby begin to see the evidences of integration, and at the same time allow the negative energy to be as valid, for always will it be. Now, inherently as a soul, perhaps you can say, since you refer to yourselves in that way, that is simply another gradient or breakdown, but we understand the identification. You are not male or female. You are truly both, and in another sense, neither. That is simply one expression, one gradient, one possibility of how your soul expresses itself throughout the multiverse. It is one of the definitions of the separative exploration in this particular physical reality. Not all realities have male and female. And in that sense, the realities which do not are simply an integrated whole, which do not even necessarily make the distinction in the way that you would understand it between inflow and outflow. It is simply one entire breath with no distinction of separating down the inhalation from the exhalation. But in your reality, you still do. And you may understand that even as, again, using your breath as an example, you do receive or breathe in and put out or act and breathe out. This is truly two expressions, but of one idea. And you contain it all by definition. Only can you perceive anything if you first contain it, otherwise it would make no sense to you. So all the energies and all the separative explorations that we are discussing, you contain. So therefore, you cannot run from them. There is nowhere to go. They are who you are, and they are within you. It is simply a matter now, in the awakening age of transformation upon your planet, of your ability to choose, and exercising this ability to not only choose, for you always have chosen anyway, whether it was unconsciously or not, but now the exploration is choosing consciously according to preference. And when you factor in your preference, maintaining your integrity, you are truly honoring who you are to the highest degree. For you are saying to the universe that my preference is who I am. That's why I prefer it. That's why something excites me. And when you no longer deny this aspect of your preference, you honor the universe. You, in that sense, return, perhaps again, colloquially speaking, the favor of your existence by being willing to be who you are most fully and function within the parameters, the polarities, the separations that you have laid down, not in denial of them. Again, denying any of these energies makes that energy more, shall I say, likely for you to choose, by giving it excess attention, rather than the acknowledgement which equalizes all things and simply puts the choices in front of you and allows you to choose with no strings attached. So therefore, there is nothing bad about negativity. It is simply an exploration. All that is being unconditionally loving completely obviously thinks this, for it places no limitations upon your ability to express and explore negativity. If all that is thought that negativity in that sense was worse than positivity, it perhaps would not even be an available exploration. It is considered an equal and valid exploration by all that is. And since again, all that is everything and is unconditionally self-loving, all that is does not invalidate any portion of itself. All that is never will. Therefore, you will have the choice to invalidate yourself, but all that is will not join in with you in doing this. All that is unconditionally loves you no matter what, unconditionally trusts whatever it is you choose to explore, and understands the complete equal quality of every aspect and every nuance within reality. as you accept this similar sense of unconditionality, you will find perhaps that you have preferences. You may find that your preference is of positivity, but you need not invalidate the exploration of those who are exploring negativity. For you have explored it for many thousands of lives, many tens of thousands of years upon this planet alone, and so they too have such the right. And as you are unconditionally, lovingly granted that right, so can you also grant that right to someone else. Now, this does not mean that you will interact with scores of people who choose negativity. In general, you will begin to attract interactions with them less and less. And again, their experience of negativity eventually will only be in the subtle form of an awareness from some remote means of their negativity. Since you will not be interacting with it, negativity, because you will be choosing positivity, in general, you will not interact with individuals choosing negativity. But again, by validating their reality, that makes this more so than invalidating it, which draws that to you. For you have obviously not reconciled it within you if you do not validate it in someone else. And you may simply understand that your exploration, your timing is such where you now choose positivity. In doing so, you automatically change the face of your life. In doing so, though, you also provide a service to everyone else. For they then see as a living example that it is possible, that the positive, integrative point of view is actually workable. Believe me when I tell you that there are many individuals upon your planet who do not believe that it is actually workable. And most of them will come from a perspective you sometimes refer to as original sin. Well, man is inherently bad. Man inherently chooses negativity. This is not our perspective. This is opposite of our own understanding. Our own understanding is because you are each sparks of the infinite creation of all that is itself, by extension of the fact that all that is the grace of the universe. You are born in original grace. And therefore, if you wish to talk about momentum, if you wish to talk about tendency, this is your natural state. This is far more natural a state for you to choose. It is the state of all that is. You are a reflection of all that is. When you speak about all that is, judging and a vengeful God or all that is, you are literally creating God in the image of man. Man who chooses negativity, or woman who chooses negativity. But truly, if you will but in your heart of hearts, in your mind of minds, ponder the idea that all that is unconditionally loving, then that cannot coexist with the idea of judgment and vengeance. That is, shall I say, a man-woman made creation for the purposes of this explanation. Therefore, you can begin to explore that same unconditionality, both with yourself, but also with others. With others, again, it can come in the form of validating their exploration, even if it is not one that you choose. But within yourself, it can also come in the form of that same validation. For from time to time, you may, in your now choosing to be a positive being, still explore, shall I say, a step to the left or a step to the right of negative action, thereby getting a particular result. But when you are willing in getting that result to employ the positive female energy, you will interpret that result from how it has served you from the positive perspective. The interpretation, the reception can be positive. And then, should you choose to express the male energy, the active ingredient, with that positive orientation, even from having performed a negative action, gotten a seeming negative outcome, you can glean a positive meaning from that negative outcome, perform a positive action, and ultimately get a positive result in every single thing. Because you contain it all you also contain the ability to express it in positive terms across the board. And you also contain the ability to, once again, perhaps once in a while, still express some negativity and still continue to grow, still continue to integrate in a positive way. Again, not by judging yourself for the negative act, but by seeing what you have learned from it and incorporating the lesson and acting anew. Now, one of the vehicles for separation, one of the ideas or expressions of the negative energy is what you call judgment itself. For judgment in that way separates things out and places unequal weight or value upon them. And therefore, when you judge yourself, you in that way separate yourself out and apply a lesser value to yourself, which is an expression and a reinforcement of separation. Separation of, perhaps from an exalted source, a lesser being. So judgment is one of the mechanisms that allows the continuance of negative energy, allows the continuance of the receptive negative energy, negative interpretation, and then thereby also negative action. So where you find yourself judging, here is your primary opportunity to transform your life to the greatest degree possible by simply reminding yourself, one moment, I am creating a separation. I unconditionally love myself, and therefore, perhaps I have done something that I do not wish to continue to do, but I will understand that it is all right. I cannot change it until I first accept that it is all right that I have done it and that I can learn from it. And when you glean the lesson from it and then move on with that lesson, you have actually balanced, so to speak, that negative energy. So whereby judgment is the mechanism for separation and continued separation, both of others and of yourself as well. Unconditional love and acceptance is the mechanism for integration and reverses the momentum of the separative judgment. You can, in that sense, pardon, if you will, yourself in any given moment by simply transforming your judgment into unconditional love and moving forward with the very same respect afforded to yourself that all that is can only afford to you. For again, all that is always unconditionally loving. So therefore, you always have a model to follow. You always have a template. You always, because all that is loves you conditionally, always, constantly, you always have the ability to drum up and feel that vibration. It is eternal. And therefore, you can always, once feeling it, match that vibration. And that vibration is, again, just as judgment is the mechanism for separation and continued perception of separation, unconditional love is the mechanism for complete integration. So therefore, you are not in any way in your explorations running from negativity toward positivity. Simply, you have explored negativity to its nth degree and are now beginning to express the joyful, perhaps you can say on one hand, alternative of gathering yourself back together. Again, as you do this and your actions, your positive actions have results, the face of your life changes. The evidence comes forth. The evidence that everything is connected comes forth. The evidence that you can create according to preference comes forth. The evidence that the fulfillment of your excitement with integrity can only yield more excitement, more options, new opportunities, new resources, new knowledge is forthcoming, but only upon your willingness to put that out and therefore get that reflection back within the polarity of positive and negative, which allows for these reflections. Therefore, you do contain it all, everything. And it is not a matter of denying anything that you contain. That gives more weight. Acknowledging that you contain it all takes off the pressure. For it simply then becomes a method of, again, not watching every step because something can get you, but simply choosing, because you contain it all anyway, and you get to choose from what you create. And yes, you can choose unconsciously, as many of you have been brought up to do, but also can you now choose consciously? And this is also one of the evidence reflections of your new willingness to begin to explore the positive, integrative energy. You now have the conscious choice. Congratulations. Allow me now to thank you for your willingness to allow us to also express our degree of polarity. For being physical beings such as yourself, there must be some expression of what you would consider to be the negative energy, again, with no good or bad connotation, but simply in the ability for us to separate to the degree where we can perceive ourselves and, as we do from our perspective, revel in our individuality. But it is not a disconnected individuality. There is far more through action and choice, the expression of the positive, which automatically reinforces the connectedness, which you can never lose. Only can you create a seeming loss of the perception of it, but never can you lose the connection. Never can you be disconnected. Never do you truly have to get back to God or all that is. Simply realize that you are the eyes of God or all that is, and simply cannot in that sense be anything else. And whereby your own two eyes gives you a unique perspective, gives more depth to the reality. So do the many billions of eyes upon your planet give depth perception to all that is. So therefore you are literally the eyes of creation. We thank you for functioning in this way. We thank you for co-creating this reality together with us this evening of your time. And we now ask you how we may be of service to you. Sharing. Yes.
Where in the opposite energies of male, not opposite, of female and male, does the sexual union come? Would that be the third side of the triangle, or are we totally whole without ever having had a sexual union with a opposite partner during our lifetime?
Well, ultimately, most foundationally, it is both. You are already complete and need not have something external to prove that completeness. However, very often in the understanding of that completeness, one of the expressions of that completeness can be that type of union, which in and of itself does imply the overall oneness, does imply the overall merging, does allow you to see from both points of view simultaneously. Does that answer the question?
Yes. So as people who have never been married or anything and have never had a sexual union with a partner or whatever, they still are growing and expanding in their negative and positive polarities.
Oh, absolutely. And no matter what their particular preference or orientation winds up being, physically, this is always so. You will find again that the sexual act is an expression of the integration of those energies. Oh, thank you. Sharing. Yes.
I wanted to share two things.
All right. Number one.
Number one is I chose the positive to do it, my male side to act. And I wrote the letter to the foundation. I needed the money to go to school in Italy. And I needed $10,000 and I got $11,000. So, wow. That was very fast.
Nice. As we have discussed, this is the rate of all of your acceleration, and your willingness to put out always brings the perfect reflection back. Again, whether that had been 0 or 11,000.
That was good.
But in your particular instance, what this demonstrates and can be of use to all others involved is simply when you do something, when you take the steps, when you make the choice, when you get off the fence, you cannot help but get a reflection and result that is a 100% appropriate reflection. So therefore, many times it is the indecision, it is the paralysis that seemingly is accompanied by what you call the frustration. Once you then again act, then again get involved, even if you quote unquote make the unpreferred decision, the reality is moving along and the results of that decision will make themselves evident and lead you to the correct and more appropriate preferential decision. But in your case, you went direct. Number two.
Number two was I had said I was on television on that talk show, and I didn't know exactly what result that was going to have. But what's happening is that I'm going to be speaking to a person about doing a weekly New Age show on cable. So
Came off a bit better than you thought, eh? All right.
yeah, it did. I watched it. It was okay, except for my hair.
All right. Well, just imagine how many you'll attract with the new hair.
So we're going to talk about doing a weekly show and interviewing different healers and herbalists and doctors and channels, and it's going to go from Greenwich to Westport. So I think that's going to happen.
Well, congratulations. You are now yet another eye of creation.
That was exciting. So all these good things are happening, or things I consider positive, and then there's another thing that I want to interpret it as positive, and I'm not. In the moment, I'm actually changing it to positive.
Well, all right.
We're talking, but it has to do, and I'm going to talk about something personal, which is a little scary. But
Well, all right. Perhaps this is number 3.
it has to do with that man that I'm going to Atlanta to see, and we seem to be having a communication problem here.
Well, perfect communication, perhaps simply not as you expected.
Right. And he was supposed to call me Thursday night with his new phone number, and it's Saturday, and I haven't received a call yet. And I'm not sure. It brings up a lot in me, and I'm not sure. Right now, I'm changing, and I can feel the positivity in me that I don't have to interpret it as negative.
Well, are you trusting the timing, or are you assuming it can only come at a particular time, and if it is not at that time, you've lost your opportunity?
I'm assuming that, and I'm assuming that it means all kinds of other things too.
What will you do? Now that you are speaking of the positive interpretation, what positive corresponding action can you then take?
My action?
Nice.
Cancel my reservation now.
Now, I did say positive.
What action? Well, I cried. That wasn't positive, I suppose.
Well, that is an alignment.
No, that wasn't alignment. I did. I released a lot of old beliefs that I had about this. And it brought me back to this old belief I have that men leave.
Well, some do, yes. So do some women. What is the point? The point is you will attract individuals who leave, individuals who do not leave. Who are you? What are you representative of? When you make that statement, then you begin to look for the similarities in others, not allow yourself to be defined by the differences, thereby then attracting those similarities. So allow this as an opportunity to reassert who you are and how you interact with others, which is not to leave.
Right.
And then I therefore assume that your positive action will be in that vein.
Right. So yeah, that is my intention. So then my intention would also be is when I do speak to him is to say exactly how I feel.
Well, perhaps that is a good idea in terms of making a clear communication.
Right.
We thank you. Sharing.
Hello.
Us.
Hello, Elan.
Greetings.
Love to you.
And to you all.
I would also like to send a message to Bashar to thank him for poking his head in last time.
All right.
That was fun.
Perhaps it was not his entire head, but I understand.
I've been exploring a lot of positive synchronicity lately. It's been just great.
Oh, not you too.
Yeah.
There's something going around.
Yes, there is. You guys have a lot to do with it.
Well, not really, though perhaps we will share and revel in it with you. But ultimately, you make the decisions, you take the actions, and we do none of that. Simply reflect in the process, perhaps, alternatives. But ultimately, you choose them, and that is why you get entire credit. But thank you.
Well, I'm aware of negativity in people I know, but in my life, things have been happening that are just wonderful, and it's there was something I wanted to do, and I started to do it, and then something came in the mail that changed the direction to a better one.
Well, how exciting.
And everything money I had saved was just the right amount, and the equipment I need, haven't that we had bought and never taken out of the box, and it's just like one thing after another, and it's so exciting. I just love it. And also, I played in a tennis tournament recently, did very well.
Oh,
And I know it was directly because of using the concepts you share. I mean, I was using them.
well, did you have fun?
Yes.
That is the point.
Usually I'm a wreck in a tournament.
Well, you can no longer say that now, can you?
One of the main things that helped was to start out by understanding that what I was feeling was not fear and nervousness, it was excitement,
Nice.
communication with my higher self. Therefore, it worked for me instead of against me.
All right. And it always will.
Yeah. I had to do it over and over for each match, and it kept working. And all the other things worked too. I mean, it was great.
Oh, imagine that. Now, as we guarantee that this will work, we also guarantee that only you can prove it. So we thank you. Before you proceed, your friend with what you call the dis-ease, what occurred there?
She's been staying in Florida, so I haven't been able to interact with her.
Oh.
But she is not doing well.
Were you able to share the information?
No.
Is there some way that you
I
can?
haven't seen her.
All right. Can you do so through your mail?
Well, I'm still planning to meet with her.
All right. It was not extraneous that the question was asked and answered, and we would simply suggest at some point, since you went to the lengths anyway, that you share the answer with her.
Oh, I absolutely intend to. I've made a copy of that session.
All right.
And I've thought about it, and she is going to get back to me when she's able to do it, and then we will get together. It will happen.
All right. Simply following up.
Yes, good. Also, I did have one question. What happens when you're in your night dream state? The things that seem to be occurring in your night dream state, can they affect your body in your daydream state?
It is possible, though in that sense generally rare. In other words, lay things out again in your sleeping dream reality. In lieu of doing so in your waking dream reality, you still get the full opportunity to fully express and experience it, but then do not bring back the quote-unquote time lag consequences of it into this, again, seemingly for now, separated reality. Also, again, separated by polarity, by understandings, by mere shifts in your orientation that allow you to perceive the two as separate. But for now, you create them in that way, and you allow yourself a certain advantage in being able to explore in this reality, seemingly without breaching certain agreements in this waking dream.
I find that I'm critiquing my dream state, my night dream state. In other words, I'll wake up, or even while it's happening, I'll realize I'm doing something that I prefer not to do anymore, and I'll think about what it is I'm doing, and then use your concepts to understand our concepts.
Nice.
To understand why I'm doing it and what I prefer to do. And then I'll wake up and I've gone through this whole thing.
Nice. And again, still though, do you afford yourself the ability to explore perhaps a negative choice, a negative action, get a negative result, have it have a particular corresponding result to yourself and your understandings, and then wake up and, so to speak, get to start all again.
Yeah.
That is only one of the many, many ways that reality can serve you.
Okay.
Now, you can also, within that reality, create positive physical effects as well. Those will tend, because they are positive integrative experiences, to be added onto you and to some degree be experienced in this reality, where the negative ones may seem to stay separative. For again, negative is a separative energy.
Well, in one night's time, I can have both.
Nice. Well, again, you contain it all.
Yeah. Polarity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shutting.
Hello?
Ace, female, then you.
Hello again.
Greetings for the first time.
Right. I did take action on the topic we were talking about and found that man, a therapist most probably, and it feels like a great relief. So again, it was the experience of taking action, getting off the fence, being, indecisive, and the relief of that. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Now, many of the things that you created the paralysis for, the what if this happens, the what if that happened, simply become irrelevant when you actually perform the actions. They are what if scenarios, not what is. And what is in the moment. What if is using that moment to project away from, so to speak, that moment. So therefore, again, the actions always reground you. And even again, should you make what you later consider to be perhaps a non-preferred choice, the taking of that action, the making of that choice, the results of those actions, and then the feedback that you get, the receptive you will allow, will then reorient you. So literally, you cannot truly make a mistake. They are always full takes of your reality.
Regarding the visualization that we did, or the channeling, where just to share with the group, you had me visualize a white column of light and see a magnifying glass next to it on a table, and under the light was the book of my life, and to uncover.
Thank you.
You got it.
The answer to my question, and I feel that the reason that I don't want to know is because I want to be surprised.
Nice. That is one of the reasons we often will not share information with you. You have, in that sense, created much of this reality for the unfoldment itself, for the joy of the discovery itself. If you are not positively oriented, joy is generally not the first thing you think of. But when you begin to entertain the positive energy and notion and orientation, it is all joy. It is all exploration and discovery. And again, that is what is unique and actually useful about forgetting 99.999% of everything you ever knew, everything you ever were, to become a soul in a given life. It is not a curse. It is not a casting out of the garden by any means. It is simply in exercising that forgetfulness the only way that you can seemingly discover. I remind you once again, in your pristine state, you are all-knowing beings. So when you are all-knowing, when everything is obvious and evident, there is no such thing as learning. There is no such thing as discovery. And there definitely is no such thing as surprise, for nothing can ever creep up behind you. You have 360-degree peripheral vision, so to speak. So one of the part and parcel reasons for this very reality, everything else aside, is simply for the joy of discovery and unfoldment.
So is it that I sort of felt that you were trying to assist me in acknowledging that I know exactly what's going to happen?
No, I was not trying to do anything. I was providing a reflection through which then provided the opportunity for you, if you wish to match that reflection, to assist yourself. But thank you.
I guess my question is, I guess, it's a choice whether I want to know or I want to be surprised. We're all capable of knowing exactly what's going to unfold in our lives. But I'm like exploring which.
From one point of view, the joy of discovery would seem to remove the capability to know, if you wish to, in all cases. So perhaps how this can break down in practical use is, if you do know, then you needed to know. If you do not, you are exploring the surprise and joy of discovery. The trust in this then lets you flow with that, and then it, in that sense, manifests most quickly. The resistance and judgment of it prolongs the process.
See, I was thinking that I was denying my knowing. I was putting a curtain over my knowing. And I just don't know where where the line is with that.
Well, now that you have the joy of the discovery, who cares?
All right, one more question. That was a very difficult, during the time, interaction with with you for me because I wasn't getting to what I was trying to get to at the moment. Now, Andrew told me afterward that his body hurt
Ace.
for the whole rest of the day. Was that because of our interaction?
Ace, but only on a subtle level. The idea is, again, it is representative not of the specifics of the interaction, but of the degree to which he, again, only being peripherally aware of the specifics, is still taking responsibility for someone else. For now, that explanation will push some buttons within him.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Female, over there. Ace.
Thank you, Elan. I wasn't here last time, but the time before when Daniel was channeled and he was speaking about looking for symbols,
Ace.
and I have found some symbols I'd like to.
Oh, do share.
Okay. In my meditations over the last month, a month ago, I had been asking daily for a symbol from my guidance, a personal symbol for me, and I was driving home from work in my car.
One moment. Do you mean in addition to the already supplied symbol of the Grail?
Yes.
All right, proceed.
Okay. Thank you for remembering. And I was driving home in my car, and I looked up in the sky, and there was a 50-foot violet equilateral triangle.
Oh my God.
40 foot, but go on.
And I knew immediately that it was for me. And I didn't get it in terms of my mind, but I was wondering if you could shed some light on.
Well, first of all, you completely got it. You saw it. So therefore you did. Second of all, that symbol is, again, a direct representation of one of our particular styles of physical, what you call, spacecraft. So therefore, it was, in a sense, a tap on the shoulder.
I felt many taps.
Nice.
Another thing was that a week ago on Sunday, we had a heavy snowstorm in this area, and I was walking my dogs in the field, and 3 times the sky opened up to completely blue sky, then covered up in white and snow, and opened up, closed, open, close, open, close. And I knew I was the only one that could see it. And it just amused me because my feeling about it was that the same communication. It was from the same source.
Well, in one way. In another way, it was from your own source. But the idea is that it will represent your willingness to begin to open up, literally, to the other realms, which other individuals may or may not match you and see at the same time, but are no less real and valid for you.
I have been aware that I'm opening very much to other dimensions.
May I ask you a question?
Okay.
What will you do about it? How will you ground this information into a practical and usable format for your reality? For though the mental plane exists within your reality, it is the action plane that creates. So how is this of use to you? And perhaps you can begin to look at many of the inspirations that you are getting in terms of how you can then exhale them, breathe them out, add them unto, ground them to your physical reality. Feel free to answer. And if the answer is, I don't know, that is just fine. But the point is to now draw your attention toward the grounding, toward the practicality, toward the accessibility. This is what is of physical service to you, and then also provides reflections to others as well.
But the only idea that I have about this now is to acknowledge the awareness when I see it happen.
Nice. And also allow that acknowledgement to come in the form of a humorous understanding and amusement.
Yes.
A muse, if you will.
I was tremendously amused at my triangle in the sky, and I had a very amusing symbol just Friday morning. I was driving to work, and I was behind a car that had the license plate 7 dwarfs. And I followed it the whole time because it amused me so that someone would choose that as their license plate. And then I went to my classroom and I opened the door, and one of my little students, Casey, said to me, the first thing that I heard, I have the 7 dwarfs.
All right.
I have no idea what that meant. But I knew that there again was another symbol for me.
To some degree, that will simply draw your attention to what you call the number 7 and its many significances, the 7 levels of reality and many other expressions that are more, shall I say, germane to what you are about to explore. For now, I will leave it that vague.
Just one other question.
All right.
I've also been aware that I'm traveling when I'm sleeping,
Ace, and you all are, by the way, but do proceed.
and that great work is being done on my head and in my energy field when I'm sleeping. And what I'm experiencing is just a few seconds prior to waking up, there seems to be a lot of discussion.
Well, sometimes this can literally be so. Depending upon the level of your consciousness that this discussion takes place on, you may or may not bring it back as a distinct memory. Understand, when you in that sense express what you call your nighttime dream reality, you are tapping into more of the totality that you generally, again, in coming to this reality, in choosing this exploration, choose to forget. Now, the aspects when tapping into your totality that have some commonality to your reality will seem to come back as some type of translatable experience. But the others that do not, the aspects of yourself so unlike physical reality that there's nothing to compare them to, are just as busy, do have you being just as involved and experiential, however, will generally come back, so to speak, in the form of, and many of you have experienced this, knowing that you have been busy with no sense of what you have been doing. So when in that sense you wake up from your quote-unquote sleeping dream with this feeling, in general, there are exceptions, but in general that is representative of non-physical experience that, again, at least in translating it on a one-to-one basis, will not have enough commonality in this reality to have a translation. However, the information that is useful in this reality will wind up coming out subtly and automatically in the form of your actions in the, shall I say, preceding days after that. So therefore, the advantage is automatic. The advantage unfolds with perfect timing. And no amount of analytical reasoning will allow you to grab hold of these ideas, for they literally are elusive of analysis. They literally exist separate from the ability to be analyzed. So how you realize these experiences most fully is by ceasing to analyze them and simply go ahead with the life. And then again, they come out in subtle ways where they can actually apply to the reality. Hence again, the grounding.
Well, what I'm experiencing is what I'm remembering the seconds that upon awakening, I'm shocked that my body is lying down. And I'm shocked at the position that I'm lying in.
Why?
Because I don't expect to be there.
Well, now you are seeing the degree to which when you create one distinct reality, it may in that sense seem again through the negative energy and completely separate from this reality. And you are feeling that dichotomy. You are expressing that particular separative nuance of the negative energy, which again is part of who you are and part of the service in allowing you to remain and maintain a physical experience.
Do you have any suggestions for the grounding?
Ace, do whatever excites you the most in any given moment from what's available. That is the most accelerative way to realize everything I have ever discussed. Everything I have ever discussed, in a sense, is simply the icing on the cake of your excitement.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Elan,
Ace.
greetings.
And to you, good day.
Is it day there?
Ace, upon my planet it is.
Wonderful.
In the position of my geosynchronous orbit.
Well, whatever that means.
That means that I am orbiting in synchronization with the orbit of my planet, so therefore experience what you would call day and night, the same as the portion of my planet that I am quote-unquote presently over, so to speak.
Are you going to experience the sunset in this session?
No,
Okay, just wondering. I'd like to continue.
I saved it till after. Just a joke. I do not plan my day in that way, though I do synchronistically find myself beholding that quite often.
Yeah. Well, just to pick up where Susan was, I had an experience last night too, and some of the questions were answered in her sharing, and but I had an experience of when I awoke, I couldn't really feel my body. This was in the middle of the night. I woke up and I could feel my hand touching my body, but my body couldn't feel my hand.
That is because you are still, in that sense, expressing what you sometimes refer to as the astral presentation of the body, which will feel distinct from the body itself.
Okay, well, the question is that I did what you suggested, which was to lie supine and, concentrate on my third eye. I heard the humming in the...
Now, I did not say concentrate as much as create an awareness. It is not an active effort. It is an allowance and simply a straying of the attention with no effort. Do proceed.
No, that's an interesting comment because I do have trouble...
When you exert the effort, yes.
I know.
It is simply a gentle swaying of your attention. Nothing intense.
Not focused, not turning your eyes up into that area.
No. It is a focusing of your consciousness, not your eyeballs.
I know. So I was traveling. I knew that, and I ended up falling asleep in the meditation. So I don't know what happened.
Oh, this is quite common.
Yeah.
It is generally, again, an extended version of the experience, again, extending into generally non-physical portions with no translation.
And I know I was very aware of one part of the dream, but another part of the dream was very busy, and I was very busy with you and others and traveling on that level. And I'd like to invite you to give me any information about that because I don't remember it, but I don't see why you can't share with me.
All right. We had a good time. That is the bottom line for us anyway. We only interact having a good time, colloquially speaking, in all that we do. So therefore, when interacting with us, when co-creating a interaction with us at the same time, you too experience that degree of joy, that degree of complete willingness to express who you are spontaneously, automatically, and thereby again reap the benefits of the manifestations of those actions.
Because every night before one of these interactions, the night before, I have a lot of visits and a lot of experiences. I don't know if that's my, consciously I know then, it's kind of a celebration because the next night I will be here speaking with you. And I'm wondering what this means to me, in short.
Well, only you know that. I cannot tell you what something means to you.
What use is my travel to go see you and others?
What use and what benefit do you derive from it? I assume it adds to the richness of your experience, which allows you to express the joy in your life.
Yeah, it's definitely joy.
One thing I will share. As we, shall I say, have often been doing lately with certain individuals, we did take a swim together in the waters of Sassanis. And many will find yourself swimming in such a pristine body of water. You will generally perceive it as perhaps a lake or a pond, many times opening out to the open sea, but not always.
That brings up a lot.
That is why I said it.
I mean, it's because it's not a memory. It's like an incredible feeling.
Well, thank you. Quite credible, I assure you. Otherwise, it would disappear.
Quickly, I'd like to ask a comment about this negative polarity and positive.
Time's up. Oh, perhaps not that quickly.
Okay. Okay, I listened to the intro, and it was great. It was a repeat of my private session with you.
Well, not from my perspective, but whatever you wish to say.
To me, it was very familiar and great.
But not a repeat, perhaps a reinforcement.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I took it as. That I really need to grasp hold of this idea about my negative and positive qualities.
Well, you may wish to, yes.
Yes. And I don't know what I was looking for with that, except that this week, now that after our session, it's been the ball has been rolling in the negativity as far as...
All right. Allow me to share this with you and cut through much of this. And this again applies to all of you as well. When accelerating your awareness and choosing positivity, like vibration attracts like vibration. Thereby, vibrations which are different, in a sense, repel. Therefore, when you steep yourself in positivity, the negativity that you have perhaps bought into up till now will separate out by definition. How it does so is to come to your attention. When it comes to your attention, if you acknowledge it, as we have shared, and choose the alternative, you transform it. Therefore, when you choose positive and act positively, the things which are still negatively remnant will come to the surface. They must. They repel from the positive choice. They make themselves available to you very often in the form of what you call negative emotions. How you most appropriately and efficiently will process this is first of all by allowing yourself in the creation of the timing of that moment to feel that feeling to the fullest extent that you can. If it is misery, you are perfect creators. Make it perfect misery. Dive into it. Challenge yourself to feel it even more. Well, I can be even more miserable. I can be even more frightened. I can be even more judgmental. Feel it. Be it. Exude it. Then it will deliver its message, resulting always in a window to a belief. Emotions do not exist in a vacuum. They are always directly only a result of a belief. You can say, I just feel this, but that is a denial. You can say, what must I believe to feel this? But you first must feel it. The feeling is distinct. It activates within you. It allows for the complete separation, so to speak, of that negativity from your homogeneous, positive, new perspective. So first of all, when you feel these things, rely on yourself. Feel it. Drum it up. Dive into it. Create it. Imbue it. Then ask yourself the standard questions. What must I believe to be feeling this? What must anybody believe to be feeling this type of thing? Allow the belief to come forth. Embrace the belief, especially if it's a belief you do not prefer, for you can only change it if you acknowledge it. Then, and do not stop at this point, you may create great despair if you do, then provide the alternative, having acknowledged the unpreferred belief. The alternative will now have as much weight with the acknowledgement of the unpreferred belief. If you squelch the emotion, you deny the belief. If you then feel the emotion but do not glean the belief, you deny the belief. If you feel the emotion and do not stop being honest with yourself till the belief is delivered, you own it. Perhaps in one sense of this word, you win. Then you get to choose the positivity, but not out of denial of the negativity. Denial, remember, gives the negativity more weight and puts it back into the pot, so to speak. So therefore, from this point forward, embrace the negativity, allow it to deliver its message, pat it on the back, send it on its way in preference of the new positive alternative. A very simple review, and we thank you for the opportunity to render it. All right? For now, that will do. At this timing, we will pause for a short break to be determined the length of by you, I assume, and we'll then resume contact at that time. Before we continue, allow me to first of all say that the entitlement of the next interaction at this location will be positive and negative synchronicity. This will allow us to delineate upon certain results that you get in your life, as well as explain a general concept which will be of service to you. But we will also pay some attention to the manifestation of negative synchronicity, for everything is always synchronicity, and this we shall discuss. Before again we proceed, allow us first of all to say, many of the structures upon your planet, what you refer to as sociological, political, economic, religious structures, contain within them one particular concept, which in a sense maintains a very distinct line of separation between individuals and groups upon your planet. And that is the simple concept that this is the only way. Understand that as long as an ideology continues to not only be what it is and provide an alternative, but purports to be the only way, thereby assuming all other ways invalid and should be annihilated, you will probably still continue in that sense to experience what you call warfare, separation, and segregation. As you begin to introduce the idea on whatever level you are able and willing, that in fact all ways are a valid way and not the only valid way, you begin to perform a service which again is an integrative service upon your planet. For it again is the recognition that all ways are valid, that your way is just as valid, and that when one in that sense completes the cycle of the usefulness of one particular way, can then automatically attract the next quote-unquote way that will newly now represent where an individual is at. So to the degree that you are willing individually to embody this level of acceptance, this level of willingness to validate realities which do not match your own, the more you make a very visible impact upon your planet. For there are simply not many examples of this attitude. It, in that sense, will always begin somewhere, and each and every one of you are an opportunity, are a way to express that all ways are valid, that you may find that your way is beneficial, you may find that your way will assist many people, but it is never the only way. And as you can get your version of this across, again, it makes an impact and provides an example, which is, again, very rarely seen, at least at this point, upon your planet. All ways are truly valid, for you literally do contain them all. And when I say you contain it all, I mean everything. I also remind you that you can only perceive something if you first contain it. So when you perceive joy, you contain it. When you perceive assistance, you contain it. When you perceive connectedness, you contain it. And you can begin in that sense to pat yourself on the back rather than ascribing to external sources the ideas which enable you to continue to grow and expand according to preference. For it is always you that makes the decision because you contain it. And only does it make sense to you because you first contain it. And from all the things that you contain, you are simply now being a bit more selective in which you will express. As you express the positive, again, you make a statement. You cause, as when you toss a pebble into one of your pond, ripples that at first seem insignificant and eventually then envelop the entire pond. You are such ripples. You are such pebbles. Each one of you do make a difference. And each one of you do contain it all. By containing it all and allowing everyone else to also contain it all, you then begin to exhibit through action what you call inner peace, peace of mind. And as you embody this, individuals can see, well, look at this individual. Their way is different than mine, but yet they do not forsake my way. And since I am not on the defensive because they are forsaking my way, I can actually see their way, and it's not so bad. You will make an impact, but only through your willingness to apply in action, which is what upon your planet is seen, is perceived by others. Not the words, the actions. Therefore, in that light, I once again thank you and ask you how I may be of service. Shutting. Ma'am.
Three questions.
Oh.
The session we had at the end of October, you were talking about you
had a very entertaining way to get us to ask about the new year that was coming. And you then explained that for the next 4 months, from November 15th through March 15th, there was going to be a much heightened level of energy on the planet.
Nice.
And that certainly, from my vantage point, has been quite true. It appears that
Now, this by no means means that it must end at that period, but that is a particular gate. Do proceed.
it seems to be accelerating a heightened awareness of the polarities
Nice.
we've been discussing.
That is what gives you back the power to choose from them, not being unaware of them, but full awareness.
Can you comment on how the planet is perceived by your folks and others as to how we're reacting and how we are dealing with these heightened levels of energy?
Nice, thank you. Our perception is very strongly positive. For we understand that only could many of the issues which have been kept in your collective closets or under your collective carpets, if you will, now are coming full force to the surface. Again, many of the things which have remained hidden in shame and guilt within your society are now simply commonplace on your daily television, allowing all individuals to begin to look at the very things not only individually, but collectively that represent the things that have been denied to this point. So therefore, we see a strong degree of acceleration, which again will bubble up many times in both positive and negative manifestations. But in the very process, the existence of the willingness for the process itself, we are greatly encouraged. For but a few months, perhaps even years ago upon your planet, such a thing would not have been allowed by the mass, and especially with this accelerative momentum. So therefore, we see great progress.
When I was reading the newspaper a couple of weeks ago,
All right, you can all applaud yourselves if you wish. Do proceed.
well, when I was just to comment that when I was reading the newspaper a couple of weeks ago and just reading the extraordinary scale of destruction that's currently taking place, I just got an extraordinary wave of impression that, in fact, things that the entities watching over us were greatly encouraged, and in fact, I was getting the message that things were going, in fact, very well, and that the current level of destruction that is taking place will not continue interminably.
Well, why did you ask? You seem to have it all.
I guess I was just looking for a little confirmation.
All right, and you have it.
The second question I wanted to ask, every time when you come into the channel's body, you hold your left hand.
All right, I am not, by the way, literally within the body, but make use of a model of energy laid down by him.
Andrew and I were we were very curious. What, if there are any symbolism to folding the third finger back when the energies are starting to blend?
Oh, thank you. First of all, you will understand this to occur on what you call the left hand, which will correspond to what you generally colloquially refer to as right brain activation. The symbology of the fourth, not the third finger, will in that sense represent very literally fourth density infusion, so to speak, upon a third density model. Thereby, when the entire, shall I say, connection is complete, then we'll complete the circuit from both ends.
And then you finish up as you're just about to take full control with your hands in a triangular shape.
Again, the completion of the circuit, so to speak. The integration of both, not simply utilizing one half, colloquially again, of the brain or the other, but one complete expression. Yes, polarities existing, but expressed as one unit.
Thank you. My last question was something very unusual that, again, happened to come into the hypnagogic. I awoke flat on my back, which I am kind of curious why I'm so vulnerable to the hypnagogic when I'm sleeping on my back. But I awoke, saw with my either imagination or I witnessed a goose on my headboard that felt like it had the essence of my beloved daughter, Kat. The goose then walked across my face, not painfully, but just to make sure it had my attention, and then curled up next to me on the bed, and I was able to feel it, see it, hear it, smell it. And I've spent the last few weeks trying to figure out what the symbology of the goose was, and haven't gotten any clear answers. I had a sense that it may have represented prosperity, but I'm not sure. And then immediately after that, I heard a very young boy playing, just chirping along over my left shoulder, just out of eyesight. Could you offer any?
It's very simple. First of all, swan, not goose. This will again represent sometimes what you refer to as the ugly duckling scenario, though we do not mean this personally. But the idea is the unfoldment into your totality, being at hand. And perhaps also you will find certain golden eggs to come forth. In terms of the child, you are simply again connecting with what you call the inner child to the point where it is now becoming accessible, closer to the surface in that way. In terms of what you call your supine or lying on your back position, this will then enable you to be most neutral, keeping the head straight, and also in that sense, colloquially speaking, facing, colloquially speaking, the heavens, in a sense, a reinforcement of the spiritual connection. And also, on a more, shall I say, nuts and bolts level, allow for what you call proper, or shall I say, full nerve and blood flow. All right.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Shedding. Male.
Good evening.
And to you.
While we're on the subject of birds, Cooper's done a complete 180 since the last time we've talked. I mean, this bird has gone completely mellow, wants to do nothing but almost suckle the back of my hand, and can't be fair without me for any great length of time, except for when I go to work.
Well, this was your initial preference.
Yeah.
Now, are you telling me you have changed your mind?
Oh, no. Not at all. I'm enjoying it.
All right.
I'm wondering.
Then what is the question? You have gotten what you desire.
That's it.
Well, what else do you wish?
Why did this happen? I mean, it was...
Simply, your reality is responding to your preference. And it also, again, does represent certain things that you have reconciled within yourself. Now, will you share with me what that might mean? In terms of what you have recently reconciled, and I assume you do know what I mean.
Yes, I do. Because the last time we did talk about what he was doing was openly working out my angers that I have.
Well, allowing an outflow for it that may be less immediately, shall I say, negatively resulting to you.
Well, I sat down one day around this same period of time and concentrated on where the angers came from and what they were directed towards, and came with some results. I don't remember exactly what, it just as is. But it was from childhood stuff. It was around the same time, within a few days of when I brought Coop to the vets.
Now, you will always have the opportunity to utilize the vet as the symbol, but it is, in general, from our perspective, the change in the attitude that resulted in that particular result. So therefore, again, your animal consciousness, which is reflective, very clearly reflective consciousness, is now, in that sense, representing how you have redefined yourself.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, thank yourself. You have done it all. Thank the bird. One moment. Is that all?
That's all.
All right. Yes.
Greetings.
And to you.
Thank you. Following my excitement has recently brought me the financial abundance to continue to follow my excitement.
All right. One moment. Is everyone listening up? This is what you colloquially refer to as a testimonial. I will allow it. Do proceed.
I'd throw that in to plug your ideas.
Well, perhaps unplug them, but we understand.
The form that it's come in is a consulting contract that seems to be very much like what I've been visualizing in my meditation. A 2-month contract working for someone that I really like. And the question that I have is I'm not really sure if this is exactly what I want to be doing right now. I think it might give me some time to do what I really want to, what I feel like I want to do, which is to write a paper on global transformation. And
it has occurred in response to your request. It will always be up to you to take up the offer or not. But do understand that this is one of the ways within your excitement that you have created a particular scenario that will allow you a space of time.
yes, it's giving me some time. The reason that I haven't been writing the paper yet, though, is because I'm wondering if I'm coming from a place of it being truly my excitement. And I know we discussed this once before, but it still comes back to me as a question. Am I coming from my excitement, or am I coming from an old place of insecurity and wanting to have people like me for having, being smarter, having good ideas or something?
Well, most accurately, there is a bit of both in there, but you may understand that you do have a desire to be of assistance. And our particular desire to also be of assistance, again, perhaps began your paper with the opening of this half of the interaction, in terms of allowing individuals to present their way as a way, not the only way. One of the major impediments to global transformation at this point.
Okay. Well, that brought, when you were talking about that, I had a question relating to the paper that I want to write. The major economic paradigm is the kind of equates economic growth with the increase in social welfare, which I think that's flawed because it doesn't account for environmental and social costs. So can you offer another alternative governing economic theory to the market theory and tell us how our government might implement it?
Again, there is nothing unsound about the market theory itself. It is simply the orientation and attitude through which people flow through that system. In general, they flow through that system out of a sense of obligation, out of a sense of everyone else defining their reality for them. It truly boils down to doing what excites you the most in the moment with integrity within that structure. For when individuals are acting not only from their excitement, but from the knowingness of their integrity, all these systems actually can work. Where the systems, quote unquote, seem to break down or hang up is in the functioning and performing of the system in the way that it is, according to, again, the obligation rather than the excitement. There is no need for welfare, for there is no one out of a job when individuals are doing what excites them. When they, in that sense, buy into what others say they should be doing and truly do things that are not representative of who they are, then yes, it is far more simple in that sense to, quote unquote, through synchronicity, lose the job you wish you didn't have in the first place, and then allow yourself in that sense to set up an elaborate social arrangement through governmental means. But if individuals begin to be aware of their excitement in that way, there is no longer this phenomenon occurring. Individuals generally will not withhold themselves from the performance of exciting things. So perhaps in and of itself, what I would suggest as an addition to any system is the excitement orientation, period. Then again, you need not have the perspective that one system is the way and all others are invalid. They are all valid, all equal explorations, and all can be equally beneficial by the allowance of the other systems and also the expression of the excitement through the aforementioned existing systems.
The thing I don't understand is how can you have multiple points of view in one governing system? For example,
well, your United States is a blatant, shall I say, example of it.
Well, then let me ask, for example, our corporate structure forces corporations to focus almost exclusively on short-term profits at the expense of everything else.
In what way?
The shareholders demand that if the CEOs don't put short-term profits ahead of the environment and worker relations, community relations, that they'll be fired and replaced with someone who will.
Yes, but already what you are describing to me are individuals functioning through obligation at the cost of excitement. So you have not introduced excitement into that structure and framework. That is the nuance. That is the new idea. What you are speaking of as this urgency would simply transform when individuals get about the task of the exciting things.
But the corporations are owned by kind of faithless shareholders that only care about a financial return. And those are the people who tell the corporation only go after profits. How can we, the people, cause our government to change?
They can only do so with the structure already in place who will obey those wishes, even if those wishes are at the cost of the individual's integrity. So again, we speak of excitement, but with integrity on an individual basis. At the beginning, in the way that your structure is laid down, that may actually wind up presenting many people quitting their job. But the idea is that when you as an individual will not settle for less, you will attract yourself into a situation whereby you can express through your excitement in what you are calling an economic setting. This sets up, again, new examples, new nuclei that then allow the larger structures to see, look, not only are they having fun, but they're making just as much money in the process. But you need to start in that sense somewhere to at least provide an alternative. Much of what you are sharing is, again, due to the knowledge or belief that there is no other way. And there absolutely is.
Okay.
So ceasing to function out of your excitement or ceasing to function unless your integrity is in place will then automatically shake your reality up, perhaps relocate you to where you then can express that and still at the same time draw abundance and draw assistance from the universe.
How can I decide if this get rid of the grandiosity so that I can decide whether or not I should be writing this paper at this time? More specifically, I guess
Do you desire to be of service? Yes or no? Why?
Because that seems to be what excites me when I watch TV and see people that are suffering in third world countries. And here, I feel that I have intuitive knowledge that could be incorporated into political structure.
All right. Now, you sound like you believe this. So where does the notion that it may simply be you striving for attention even enter into this?
Because that's something I've done in the past, and I'm wondering if I've let go of that.
Well, have you?
Sometimes I don't think so.
Right now, as we are speaking, have you?
I don't think quite, because I feel a little nervous right now.
Well, that can, again, perhaps be the excitement with a slight negative edge on it. My perception is that you are doing it for the quote-unquote right reasons, using your own terminology. Now, there will be automatically some recognition in this, but it does not strike me, so to speak, as your underlying motivation. But anything I can say is simply arbitrary. It is what you choose to believe, and only you can come to this conclusion.
Okay. A lot of times I'm applying your concept of doing what I love, and often that makes me feel very joyous in the moment. However, there are times when I'm unhappy and I can't figure out what I must be believing to create that unhappiness. For example, today I was talking with a dear friend who's a real Bible thumping Christian, and
Bible thumping.
he really believes in sin and the judgmental God and everything. And I wanted to do what you says, which is honor his point of view and love him for where he is. But I found myself feeling defensive and kind of almost getting argumentative with him about it.
All right.
I left the conversation feeling unhappy.
Well, that is a prime example, however, of where you are at. And it is an example to decide and look at. All right, interesting. I got defensive. What a surprise. Where is this hanging up for me? Where do I not believe where I am saying? Is it obvious to you at what point you did not believe what you were saying?
I don't know. I seem to believe what the concepts that you espouse completely, but there must be some place of doubt inside.
Yes, and where is that? And again, doubt is not a lack of trust.
I think the doubt comes in from the fear that what other people will think of me if I espouse these concepts.
Now, if you are only willing to remain positive, what's the worst they could think of you? Oh, he sees through rose-colored glasses. Big deal. The idea is that you have performed a service. There is still to some degree, underlying idea that what you are saying is perhaps better than what he is doing.
Yes.
Now, that is all right. Only can you again remind yourself of the equality of all realities by at least acknowledging that you do still contain that. So therefore, simply re-acknowledge, remember, recollect, if you will, that it is all right for him to think that. And that the point was not to turn him around, and that him turning around or not turning around is not any commentary on the power of your ideas. It is simply his willingness to take the gift that you have done and do with it whatever. Even if it reinforces his point of view, understand you have still been of service to him. Simply not according to your point of view, but still no less of service to him.
How do I love him and feel comfortable being with him when I can see that his belief system is causing him pain?
As all that is, so allows you to explore anything, simply emulate that perspective. Again, providing, where possible, a loving alternative with no insistence. And then being a living example, once again, of what you are speaking of. He is not blind and will eventually see that it is working for you and then perhaps ask you some questions. But the harder you push, the more a defense goes up, and the defense isn't a receptivity to anything at all, and therefore does not allow what normally might be considered as sound ideas by him to even get in. Therefore, your willingness to not insist, your willingness to simply state with love, with peace in your tone, is the greatest opportunity that he will even get to look at it. So simply now approaching him from this perspective, incorporating what you have felt, and reminding yourself that what he believes is completely equal, and he has the completely equal right to explore his perfect version of whatever misery he is creating. That is, again, his choice. And that is part of the validation of which we speak. Also then allowing you, from your point of view, in beginning to view global transformation, to express individual transformation in once again saying, I have a way, you may wish to use it, it has certain advantages, but it is not the only way, and your way is just as valid. Thereby beginning global transformation in one particular interaction between individuals. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm involved. I've just joined a spiritual group down near where I live that's led by a woman who I admire, who's been teaching this stuff for 20 years. But one of her beliefs causes me a little discomfort, and I wanted to ask you about it.
Well, very interesting. How could her belief cause you discomfort? Do proceed.
I guess I wasn't sure if it was true or not.
Ah, well, it is and it is not, and you get to choose, but do proceed.
Okay, she talks about negative spirits or disembodied negative spirits or entities that we can
only attract if you first vibrate at the same rate. Therefore, if your perspective is a positive, loving, unconditional individual, yes, these energies exist. Again, you cannot deny within polarity that extreme manifestations of negativity exist. However, if you are the prime positive action example, they cannot find you. They cannot see you. So unlike are you.
Okay.
So it is not a matter of denying you contain it all remember. It is simply a matter of choosing what will be relevant to you. And if you are positively oriented, negative beings are irrelevant to who you are. Therefore, literally will seem not to exist in your reality.
Okay, she says things like bringing a golden pyramid over you or something like that can protect you from it, but that seems to me to...
Protection is again setting up for the attack, which is the same as setting up the attack. And again, fear of a negative entity is perhaps, you can say, a fancy way of saying that you feel it is most likely that you will attract one. So fear is an opportunity to see what you must believe, being that it as well is an emotion.
Well, my concern with being in this group then is I don't want to buy into the belief system that I'll be attacked by negative entities.
Well, how could you? On the contrary, you can actually be a grounding example of the refusal to buy into that, thereby giving other individuals both choices without insisting or invalidating her choice. Again, another opportunity to globally transform through individual interaction.
My question was, is the group a safe place for me?
Have you heard what I have said? Then yes.
Okay.
Every place is safe for you. Nothing can get you. You are everything. Therefore, even if something would seem to get you, it is you getting yourself, which is just generally another fancy way of saying delivering a message which you have refused to receive. So simply be open to receiving all the messages that all your emotions deliver, and you will never create that type of attack. And never need fear it. And again, if you do, trace the emotion of that fear back to the belief, acknowledge that belief, provide the alternative, and act and move according to the alternative.
Well, thank you. One of the things in the past that I did from a place of insecurity was compare myself to other people a lot and build myself up by putting other people down and stuff in my mind. And
Didn't work, by the way, did it?
It sure didn't make me happy.
Oh.
And that's why I want to let go of it.
Well, you just have. Congratulations. Simply continue to do so.
But that continue to do so, I mean, the reason I brought it up is because up to this point, it seems like it's sneaking in on me. I'll catch myself comparing myself to someone and say, why are you doing that again? I don't want to do that. I know I'm equal to this person. Externals don't matter. There's no, I don't want to get caught up in saying I'm better or worse.
Then you are resolving it, and as it comes up, in handling it will soon obliterate the necessity for having it continue to come up. Simply continue to handle it from that perspective instead of seemingly succumb to it. Understood?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
We thank you. Perhaps we can share again, but for the purposes of involvement, we will now cease at this point this interaction. And again, thank you for your willingness to open many doors, not only within yourself, for many individuals present was I speaking to in answering your question. And thank you. Shutting. Female.
This is a question for a friend of mine, Mary.
Oh.
She read a book that she was really impressed by. Brought up a lot of your questions in her. Is Andrew familiar with the book Behold a Pale Horse?
No. Do describe.
As much I haven't read it, so as much as I can ascertain from her, she talked about our government knowing about the aliens, making an agreement to have, sounds like the Zetas, make an agreement with the Zetas to abduct people.
Shall I say, to allow those types of co-created interactions to take place. Detainments of sorts.
There is an agreement.
Well, in a sense, yes.
Okay. Next question. She said there's something like a parallel government.
In a sense, only in a loose sense, is that one way to describe the, shall I say, empowered body that has made that agreement. But it is only very loose. You are ultimately your governments. So therefore, you are still the source.
third thing she wanted to know was the existence of the international secret societies.
Repeat.
International secret societies.
Ice. And what is the question?
Does it exist?
There are various, shall I say, connections of individuals. Some of them may seem to present in this way, but they pose no threat to who you are and what you are, and in a sense are, in many ways, buckling in under their own weight.
I do remember one thing she said about the book. She says JFK was killed by the CIA by the last other movie with JFK. That he was killed by the CIA in Dallas because he was going to expose the knowledge that the government had about the aliens, something about drugs.
That is not, in the alien sense, our perception. There was knowledge, but that was not our perception of the reason.
Okay. This author of this book, William Cooper, said the driver of the
No, not from our perspective. There were perhaps other sources of what you would call the bullets, but not the driver, no, not from our perspective.
that supposedly is on that Zapruder film.
All right. Again, it is our perception that it is not.
Okay. That this is for me. I'm following my assignment and getting my master's degree in counseling.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah, using what I've learned from being disabled and
re-abled, but do proceed.
And one person I see right now, I counsel a girl named Kim, and I feel that she and I have connections beyond this life. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
But the connections for now most strongly lie within the re-empowerment, the taking back of your power under all circumstances in this life. Is that all?
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for your willingness to boldly share. It is our joy. Sharing.
Yeah.
Female, then you.
Me?
Ice.
Oh, thank you. And
Oh, you're welcome.
it's nice to talk with you again.
Oh, and us as well.
I have something that's, I did this once before. I asked something that was very embarrassing to myself. And so I'm about to do so again.
Well, how exciting.
All right.
Are you blushing?
Yes,
Well,
probably am. I've been thinking about this question, which I will reveal in a moment, as you've been speaking with the other people. And I'm turning this around in my mind, but it's a situation that involves finances. Over the past several years, I've had real financial difficulties. And at one point, and it was the time actually when I came into this group, I really didn't have a place to live. And that lasted for some months. And I realized that I'm creating these situations and these lack, this feeling of lack, and especially lack of money. And I would like your help in maybe just taking another step with this as I look at how I want to change this.
all right. First of all, have you been, as we have discussed, allowing your abundance to come in other forms?
I heard that suggestion of yours.
Ice, but we are speaking about using it.
Yes.
And the idea is your willingness to do so is a posture of unconditional acceptance. The posture of unconditional acceptance, the polarity of unconditional receptivity or acceptance, is matched by the universe as unconditional giving. So therefore, when you place rigid conditions, they are in that sense maintained from the other end. When the rigid condition is, I will only allow the money to be the way to deliver this methodology, then that's what you get, or perhaps don't get as fast as you may wish. But when you begin again to expand the definition and allow it to deliver in the many ways, then you begin to create an unconditional acceptance, which is matched with, again, many coincidences seemingly delivering beyond your expectancy. That is step one. Step two would be, once again, to call your attention to whatever limiting beliefs that you contain about individuals who already have money. For if they are interpreted by you in a negative way, there is the built-in contradiction of beliefs whereby you want something, but may feel the cost of getting it would be the cost of yourself or your integrity. So that will be the next step. Is that clear?
Yes, that's clear.
Are you still blushing?
I'm thinking about what you're saying.
Oh,
Am I blushing?
No.
oh,
Good.
perhaps you have recentered.
At the session at Pymander, when I was telling you how I didn't like to fold brochures and things and do that part, and how that felt so yucky or overwhelming to me, the woman next to me volunteered to do some mailings for me. And in fact, she did do them. And I really like her, and I think she's really intelligent. And that was a real gift at that point.
Well, instant manifestation. You will often begin to see more of this. But it takes having the notion and boldly putting it out there, which you did. Now you can see how quickly the universe delivers.
I feel like you had a great part in that, since I feel like you stimulated that.
Well, great part, perhaps meaning as an actor, ace.
So, thank you very much for your part.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to take these two steps. The first is, I forgot what the first step is.
Allowing your abundance to come in whatever way, no matter what, that will still enable you to do what you need to do. Exercising your ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it without rigidly insisting it must come in monetary form. Number two, again, is to assess how you feel, or the negative feelings that you sometimes create about what money does to one and how one with money then acts.
All right.
That will keep you busy.
Undoubtedly, yes. Well, thank you very much.
And to you. Over there.
Elan,
Ice.
I want to ask another question. When you were sharing with Jim about swimming, I've been having lots of visions lately when I do meditations, or actually lucid dreaming. I'm awake.
Here it comes.
And so I've been having visions of going in other dimensions and being with divas and fairies and actually being myself. Sort of look like me, but I look a little different. I have long blonde hair, and I just look different, and I have a bigger chest, which I like. So and I live in a tree, and I'm a healer, and I have herbs, and I talk to the animals, and they can hear me. And so this has been going on, and I've been with elves and I'm married to an elf king, and I had children. And it just goes on and on. And then today I had a vision of doing the same thing, except this time I was swimming in a lake. A pond, actually, with different beings, and it was incredibly beautiful. It wasn't just swimming; it was something ritualistic about it, and it felt so incredible. And I had all this emotion about it. And then
You are simply fully involved in interacting with us. And what you ascribe as ritualistic is simply our full 100% commitment in each moment to that moment and to the act that we are performing. So therefore, it may feel ritualistic because the same dedication is there. But this is consistent throughout our life in every moment.
But you didn't look like how I would picture you'd look.
In general, individuals will bring back memories of us as either being human, since you do act within us, or with us in that state as equals, and that is your idea of equality. But also, there may be other forms as well, for we are more slight in stature.
Yeah, I know. You look like little elves. I mean, I can't. That's strange. So, then I got out of the water, and all these beings in robes came and put a robe on me and said that I needed to go with them. So I went with them to a castle or a tower, And I kneeled down and they anointed me, and they were like, look like ascended masters to me. That's how they felt to me. And they gave me a book and told me it was time now. It's a big, beautiful old book. And they said it was time now for me to remember and use this knowledge. And I said, thank you very much. Can I go out and play again? So I didn't care about the book.
The idea is that the playing was part of the knowledge, and that you need not sacrifice that spirit of play in order to manifest. But once again, I remind and also draw your attention upon the grounding, where these ideas then become practical in this reality after you have had that fun, for they are applicable.
It felt that way. When I was meditating, I wasn't out of my body. I was, in fact, sinking into the earth. My legs were sinking into the earth. I was fully embodied. I was not leaving. So it was more of a physical, I could feel the energy in me and through me.
Nice, but the lesson in there, the being pulled into the earth, is again the regrounding itself.
So how do I, oh, you're going to tell me that my follow my excitement, aren't you?
Oh, nothing. Anything but that.
But with the book, is there anything specifically in that book? Like, I have a feeling that some like large pieces of knowledge are just going to like come and transcribe through me.
Nice. To some degree, you will find many pages. Simply from your perspective, it will not know the difference.
Well, all things have consciousness. There's no such thing as a...
Well, all right. Perhaps you will tap into that, but there is no need to apologize.
No, I forgot what I was going to say. Wait.
I'm waiting.
Okay.
Another name.
Oh, thank you. Another name came through. So then, wait, there's one other thing. There was, after I had the first vision of this woman with blonde hair, she has little elf ears and everything. I went to this store where this woman makes divas and elves, and she gets visions and makes them, and I go in and guess what was in the store? This big doll that had long blonde hair with feathers in her hair, and she lived in a tree, in a cherry blossom tree. And she had a big chest. She had this long skirt. And so I couldn't believe it. I'm looking at this doll.
Well, obviously, you could believe
Well, I
it.
could, but so I told the woman the story, and she knew I was a healer, and I told her I was going to put the doll in my healing room, and she was very excited, and I told her all about my vision. So she gave it to me for half price, which was...
Well, that is synchronicity.
Yeah, so I have her in my, and I actually feel that she has energy. She's not just a doll. And then I got a new name today, and I think it's the doll's name, or maybe it's my name in another dimension.
Well, what is the difference? What is the name?
The name is Elantra.
All right.
And I don't know what that means. It just kept coming to me that was either my name or I don't know.
Well, how exciting. You will find out.
I will.
Nice.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know why all these visions are coming in the form of nature spirits in the pan and...
Well, they are simply a representation of your willingness to remain connected and no longer feel separated.
Right.
You are literally one not only with your reality, but with what you would call your planet, your elements, your elementals.
Oh, right. Yeah, and it's also knowing that it's not different from this reality, that there's no separation, right? It's all the same.
Nice.
Okay.
We
So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Shut it. Male.
You said that this information that we're all getting has been sent to us in a chunk or a block at once.
When you will interact with us directly, we do not speak your language and therefore will in general interact in what you refer to as chunks or blocks of information, which you will then at your own pace and your own comfortable timing, then allow the translation of which to come over a period of timing.
When did that block get sent for me or any of us?
Which one?
Me.
Which block?
I took this as, when we spoke of this before, that my whole life, beginning to end, and this life that's a block. That's a chunk.
That is not what we meant, but that is also true.
So the information from you
came at a specific timing in your recent, shall I say, presentation, and is, even as we speak, even in the sense of you asking the question, beginning to unfold. But in an interactive way, interactive with what you consider for now to be external to you.
So when I first physically started coming to these channelings, the information, no, I don't.
What we are speaking of is most recent. Only was the allowance by you made most recently.
Yeah. Yes, I understand that.
We thank you.
I think.
All right.
Elan,
Ace.
first I'd just like to say thank you for being such a loving and wise reflection of myself. It's so beautiful to see.
Well, thank you for wording it properly.
Okay. Another thing it was interesting that she was talking about the Devas and fairies. A couple of years ago, I had an experience where I saw a fairy, and there was just so much joy and lightness and tinkling about her and everything. And it was when I was really exploring the Davic and nature kingdoms.
They will always present themselves when in love and trust you request the interaction, for they are discrete energies.
Yeah, because I want that to come around me. I feel it, but I want that closeness. That
Perhaps you are mistaking the idea that there is a difference between feeling it and being it. When you feel it in that moment, you are sharing it.
But that was so neat to see it.
Nice. All right, neat. All right.
You know, beautiful. And the other thing I would just like to ask you: how may I serve you?
Well, you already have and always do by simply being willing to be who you are and interact in this way. That is of service to me. Hearing your individual perspective is of service to me. In understanding that much more about creation, allows me to expand the definition I have of myself. For I understand creation from my perspective is within me. Therefore, you assist me in defining myself still further, the greatest of gifts that one can render. We thank you. Shutting.
Elan.
Female. One moment. Not you.
Excuse me. Okay, sorry.
Over here.
Is it me? You.
Ace.
Elan, I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you. My first time. We were talking about the sleep state and about dreaming, and I wanted to ask a question about coma.
I'm all right.
I have a brother who's been in a coma for over 4 years, and I believe that he is in this state because he needs to receive unconditional love. He sometimes appears to me in dreams where he is awake, and I experience the joy of this awakefulness.
Ace. And that is a distinct interaction representative of the intersection of your and his consciousness.
Okay, good. I'm about to go back to close to where he is in Canada and see my family, but I won't be able to see him in this recent trip. I am facing with my family this ongoing, I guess it's a struggle, where I believe he should stay alive until he is ready or gives the signal to leave, that they feel a decision should be made to have him depart this earth. Will I receive a communication through my dreams when he is ready to go, or shall I give in to this family decision?
Perhaps, if you wish to, in that way, pose this question, you may wish to be a little bit more active and dialogue with him consciously in your meditative state. For you will get feedback, you will make a connection, and much of what we are discussing will simply become plain and obvious.
Okay. I thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, and him. For he, in that sense, is, as you have surmised, still in some level conscious. Still in that sense is a discrete soul. His body is a reflection within that soul, not the other way around. The soul is not trapped in the body. The body exists within the consciousness. And simply from one point of view, you may understand that simply has he closed the eyes of his soul that corresponds to the physical point of the body and simply opened them elsewhere, which from the perspective of the body seems out of the body. But it is simply relocating within the totality of his consciousness. But again, indirectly dialoguing, much will simply become evident. For he has an opinion on this.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, and you. Shutting.
Elan,
Ace.
I had similar thoughts. I always wondered the question that Jim asked about you're sending a chunk of information or communication.
I was wondering, how do you know in advance what kind of questions I'm going to have or thoughts? How do you know in advance?
There will sometimes be the idea of perceiving a particular orientation, but far more will it fall into, from my end, just the synchronicity. My having the notion that this is to be communicated, corresponding with that exactly being the question that you are asking. That is truly the more generally applicable mechanism that occurs. It is complete synchronicity. And when in that sense, and again, this is quite colloquial, do not picture large chunks of concrete coming into your mind. But the idea is when a complete concept is delivered, and you then break it down along a timeline to translate it, when you are through midwifing it into your reality, again in the form of actions, not speaking to everyone about it, that allows me then to deliver the next concept. So somewhat then is the timing determined by your willingness to apply what has already been transmitted. So you do have, in that sense, part and parcel of the process itself. But many of the specific questions, again, are on one level, perhaps you can say, anticipated. On another level, complete coincidence.
And does this happen both ways?
Ace.
So I also maybe do the same thing.
Well, we do have the ability to tap into discrete moments or, again, extract, again, perhaps you can say in the reverse direction, a complete concept, which I will then also then translate as it is relevant to me in my reality, which may or may not be in one sitting or standing. Does that make sense?
To me, that makes more sense because I think it should be, or again, I don't know what else.
You choose in being individuals to still wish to maintain what you call a degree of privacy. And we respect this, for in general, it is not a concept that we are now exploring. Since we are completely telepathic, there is the idea of privacy and the possibility for it if desired. But in general, it is simply not something we desire. However, we respect your particular creation of it and therefore interact in that way, thereby providing the information, being of service in perfect timing, but without treading on any toes.
I had exactly opposite in mind. I did want you to know a lot of stuff. I do wish for you to know, and I'm wondering.
But when you wish for me to know it, I simply do.
Is it directly or through my future self?
Well, in the way that you mean directly. If synchronicity in that sense affords it, it may actually come through the future self at some time. But the effect will be the same. I will know it when I need to know it in order to then reintegrate and reinteract with you.
Because I do feel like I have a lot to contribute.
Well, you absolutely do. You all do. And this is something, again, that we do not take lightly. Well, perhaps in one sense of the word we do.
Actually, that brings me to something else that I've been thinking of this evening. I don't know where it came from, but I was wondering. I've been in touch.
Now, obviously, since you contain it all, you know where it came from, but do go on.
I was driving and I just thought of it. And I thought it's too strange a question to ask, but
No such thing. We like those.
I'm going to extract it a little further anyway. I was thinking about childhood. Okay, let me say this first. I've been in touch with many entities in last, maybe 2 years. And I suddenly realized I've never come across a child. Where are all the children? How come everybody's an adult? I mean, I know they were children at some point, but I'm thinking about this universe seems to be to have all the adults, or at least they
simply tap into that idea. They are there. They have the same abilities. They are in general very, as you say, present time conscious. Do not in general participate in these interactions in the way that we do, but they are accessible. And simply it will require but the request from your end.
I think I'm thinking more about ending of the childhood, and seems like we, not when I say we, I mean everybody, people on different planets also spend more time being an adult and very little time being a child.
Well, the idea is there is a notion that adulthood must come at the cost of childhood, and that simply is not so. Now, when you are speaking physically, perhaps that is the appearance. But when you are speaking psychically, spiritually, mentally, if you will, that child lives on within you. That child represents the freshness, the fascination, the willingness to approach situations as if anew. Simply that child is now embodied within attitudes and willingness to be open and not so much discreetly in what you would call identification with a body type. So therefore, never do you in that sense achieve adulthood at the cost of the child energy. You, in that sense, express adulthood as an enhancement of the child energy. This is how we function. This is how you will begin to function as you cease to invalidate that there is anything less about the childhood. It also is an equal exploration, the advantages of which carry throughout your life, much as many of you have surmised some of the negative ideas do, but that is only because you recreate them in the now moment. Nothing in any past moment has any hold on you in the now moment other than to the degree that you create it. And since you always recreate yourself in any given moment, it is not a memory haunting you and following you along. It is you recreating it and making it re-relevant to that moment. That is why when we say the present is not a result experientially of the past, we mean it. You can create the past in the present, but truly you are only ever in the present.
Elan?
I was thinking, I'm almost finished. I was thinking about the way you describe how you live, and I thought your lifestyle or approach is more like a child.
Well, in very many senses, this is what I am saying. You do not, again, be an adult at the cost of the childhood. It is an enhanced childhood, so to speak. Thank you for the compliment.
And if we also somehow learn to do that, be more like a child, not be so grown up.
It is not a matter of learning. It is a matter of being willing to express what you already are. You contain this. You contain it all.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Female.
Elan, are babies creating from the moment they're born? For instance, with all the abuse and everything that's coming to the surface now of parents, adults to children, are they creating that from when they're really little? And how do they do that?
Ace, they are, but the idea is, again, as we remind you, that your creations are either of the conscious variety or unconscious due to the fact that you create these separations and live within them. So those will be, in general, results of unconscious creatorhood, very often connected with what you call karma, which is not a law, but completely self-imposed, though when you impose it, it seems like a law.
Because I had thought that maybe with just my own childhood as an example, that I had perhaps decided before I even came here to work on a certain problem, as did my father, and that we were working it out together from the very beginning. The plan was made before we were even here.
Well, in one sense, yes. In the way that it actually winds up playing out, there is more free will of the physical self. But again, in the childhood, you would see less of an apparency of this. And be more, again, perhaps, yes, functioning more automatically according to the agreement.
So you don't have to feel guilty about attracting all these atrocities to yourself.
Well, it is always an option, but those feelings of guilt and judgment, again, separate your ability to transform them and then use them in a positive way. Ultimately, how one can make use of these ideas is what then makes you or allows you to express that much more of a complete version of yourself, which can then be of that much more service to others.
And with the polarity of right and wrong, what is your opinion of Dr. Kevorkian in helping people to end their lives?
Again, it is not right or wrong. It is positive or negative. It would, in that sense, be completely, from my perspective, up to the individual case. Therefore, this is a general question that I will not give a general answer to.
Right. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Elan,
Ace.
thank you.
Now.
I thank you.
Did not forget you. Was simply the timing.
I thank you. I understand.
Have you been paying attention?
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Another part of the question that I was going to ask was I meditated a few nights ago about and it was a financial question when I was meditating because of a circumstance that just happened or may happen, which is kind of unfortunate. And when I was meditating about this, I heard a telephone ring, and when I picked it up to answer it, it was my father. And he told me he had some money for me and that I should call my mother. My father passed away, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now. And I did talk to my mother today, and I told her some of the details and some things that are happening to me and my concern that maybe I wouldn't have a place to live again and that would make me unhappy. And I left it that way. And I also told her that I've done healing work for years. I thought you could hear. They were both things, revealing things to my mother, who I generally don't really reveal very much of myself.
Well, back then, now you do.
Yeah, okay. And I'm wondering, I would like, yes, it's confirmation. I did hear that message from my father, and I dialogued with him the next night just to kind of check it, and he told me to definitely call my mother. When I said these things to her, there was no response, and so I'm wondering, did I do the right thing, or should I have just said something directly, or let this rest?
Well, again, you have done what you felt it was apparent to do, but again, there is timing from her end involved in this as well. So perhaps you can understand that you have planted a seed.
I see. All right. I understand that. A few nights ago, I also got a name that I would like to check with you. It was Shota, and we would spell it Xota. Does that name mean anything to you?
Well, yes, but the idea is, what does it mean to you? Groan, collective psychic groan. All right. I would be remiss to say anything else.
All right.
Now, when you share, then I expand.
I'm going to go back and maybe I'll take that into meditation and see what response I get.
Thank you. And then we can, in that sense, enhance your understanding in a particular way. But we cannot enhance something that you have not yet conceived of.
I understand. Thank you very much.
And to you. At this timing, I will take another question. Ace.
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Interesting question. In the way that you mean for the answer to this question, the chicken. But it came from something else and was what you would colloquially refer to as a mutation. First must come the being, then will come the egg of that being.
How did the being get here?
We will discuss that another time.
Thank you.
And to you.
Love to you.
At this timing, we will not take another question. We will, in that sense, again, express our unconditional love and appreciation to you all for beginning to be willing to own your reality. Since you contain it all, you might as well get down to owning it. There is simply nothing outside of yourself. There is no outside. Therefore, there is nowhere to put anything. It is all within you. And it is not a matter of getting rid of a belief and getting a new one. There's nowhere to put the old one. It is all within you. And therefore, it is simply a matter of choosing from the totality within you. It is not, again, getting rid of one thing and then getting another. It is simply shifting your point of view, shifting the relevance that you put on things, thereby making certain things irrelevant to who you are. But again, they still exist within you everything does. So there is nothing to run from. There is nowhere to run to. There is only you. As you say, thank God. I bid you all a most fond and loving life dream and dream lives, and good evening.